I want to get your thoughts on Sunday's Royal Rumble pay-per-view. I know you've been out of the business for about a year now, but I'm sure you've heard the pay-per-view was universally panned by fans across the board. What are your thoughts?
Well, and by the way, since I'm on the radio in beautiful downtown Boston, I have to send a shout-out to my friend Brutal Bob Evans, the honorary governor of Massachusetts, who would be offended if I didn't mention him. I love you, Bob. The Royal Rumble just signifies more and more that there's what I've noticed in my time in Ring of Honor, there's what I've noticed over the past decade. There's a couple of different groups of wrestling fans now, and they don't seem to correlate because of the changes in the wrestling business. Mm-hmm. There are the loyal wrestling fans that enjoy seeing the stars that they like to watch, that wrestle and that have substance to them and that they believe are talented and qualified. They like to see those guys prosper, and Daniel Bryan fits right in that picture. And they get very upset when those guys don't prosper. And they're the fans who buy the pay-per-views. They're the fans who spend money to buy tickets to see the live events. They're the fans who buy the merchandise.
Right.
They're the fans who spend money and invest emotionally in the product. And then there's a large group of wrestling fans that has been made from what I call the sports entertainment phase, especially over the last decade, that just watches on TV for free because that's the thing you watch on TV for free, like your weekly television shows or your soap operas, or as my aunt used to call them, her stories. And wouldn't dream of actually buying, or, they might get a T-shirt if they're at Kmart and they see it just as a hoot, right? But they're not going to go to a live event. If they do, it's maybe once in a year or two, as something to see like Disney on Parade. And they're not going to buy the pay-per-view because there's, 4 million people watching Raw and they're selling 200,000 pay-per-views, so there's a disconnect there. The problem has become, in my humble opinion, that the TV networks have so much control over pro wrestling because of the rights fees that they pay, and the ratings are all important to the wrestling promoter, especially Vince. He's the only one who actually has legitimate ratings. That audience is the ones that they're trying to cater to, and it backfires when you try to do it in front of people that actually paid to get in to see your product.
Boy, did it.
And that's unfortunately the same way. In Ring of Honor, it was a much smaller group of people all across the board, obviously, but there were fans who came to see their, private club, Ring of Honor, the underground internet phenomenon, and when it was bought by Sinclair Broadcasting, and the recipe for, disaster in pro wrestling promotion, just add suits, and I was unfortunately partially guilty in that because I was involved in getting it sold, but we had to get on television. There were a group of fans who loved the product because it was the best, hardest hitting wrestling they'd seen on television. They didn't know it existed before. So you had two groups there. One didn't want any change to make it more mainstream, and the mainstream folks who did get involved thought it was the greatest thing they'd ever seen because they hadn't seen it before.
Right.
And wrestling is a very polarizing sport these days, and pro wrestling, as we know it or have known it for 100 years, has given way to sports entertainment for a generation. And right now, whatever it is you call what they do in the squared circle while they're wearing boots and tights, it is unfortunately constricted to where it's the only thing I can think of now in any field of endeavor where more people, sport, entertainment, whatever, more people used to like it and support it and spend money on it than do now. There's still a rabid fan base, but it's way not as big as it used to be.